A very good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are tuned in to the hotspot. Now, guys, it's been a hard week to be a Manchester United supporter, but I do want to talk about something different this time, not the games we've played. I generally want to talk about our manager and the signings he's made over the course of his over 12 months as boss of Manchester United. Now, we can fault the Glazers for a lot of things as Man United supporters, and we've got every right to do that. But one thing we can never fault them for is the lack of spending when it comes to transfers. To be fair, they have clearly tried to make money available for new signings. The only thing, though, is that they have always been letting money to be spent on the wrong players. Now, in this video, we want to look at the top 5 flops of Erik Ten Hag. Ten Hag joined Manchester United a few just last season, and he was in between now and then. He has been trusted with over 400 million quid. Yes, over 400 million pounds is what Erik Ten Hag has spent on about 16 players. Now, if that is not almost an overhaul of the club, I wonder what is. But the question is, many of them have obviously not performed according to expectations, but a few of them have really disappointed. Now, we are looking at the top 5 flops under Erik Ten Hag. And I'll start off with number 5. Here we go. My number 5 is none other than that young man, Tyrell Malaysia. Now, Malaysia joined Manchester United from Feyenoord for 14 million pounds. He's a left back, and he was promising back then when he joined Manchester United. He looked like a young boy who can come in and play some decent football, especially because at that time when we brought him, we had issues with Luke Shaw and his injuries because he was never consistent. So Malaysia, a 24-year-old man born in the Netherlands, of course from Rotterdam, was seen as a young man who can come in and actually step up and, first of all, not only be an option for Luke Shaw, but also try to give him competition, and maybe he could become our starting left back. But here we go. Just a few years, 1 year to be precise, since joining us, it's almost 2 years. Malaysia has played only 22 games for Manchester United, scored no goal. I don't remember of him assisting any, but the most important thing is he has barely been available to play. To be honest, to be fair with him, when he's played, he has looked decent, he has looked promising, but the reason why I'll still put him in my top 5 flops for Erik Ten Hag is because he did not solve the problem he was brought to solve. Yes, and you can say because he was injured, but injuries are part of the game. That doesn't mean he's performed. So for me, clearly, he has flopped, and I would rank him as number 5. He has flattered to deceive. He's never fit. When he's fit, yes, he's been playing. He's been looking decent and promising. Maybe there is chance for him to stand, redeem himself. But for now, he's still a flop because he was brought in to solve a huge problem with that left back position, which until now remains a problem. There is no Luke Shaw injured. Malaysia, the backup, is not there. Sergio Reguilon, who was brought in, is not, again, I think, rated by the manager. So you're seeing players like Lindelof, Diogo Dalot playing left back, Amrabat. So for me, that is why I would put him among the flops. Not because he's a bad player, but because of injuries, but it doesn't change a thing. He still remains a flop because he has not given us what we expect, even for the little 14 million quid we got him for. So, Tyrell Malaysia is my number 5 flop under Erik Ten Hag. Number 4, and yeah, I know I might get a few people abusing me for my number 4, but it's okay. It's okay, but there you go. Sofian Amrabat. And yes, I know. He's the last. I think he's the last signing we had in the last summer. And anyone, obviously, with reason, should say it's early days for us to say Amrabat is a flop. He's only new. He needs time, and I get it. But quite honestly, considering, and he came on loan. We paid a little bit of cash. I think about under 10 million pounds for him to come on loan and all. But to be honest, the hype around Amrabat and how much we waited for him, the patience, the pain, the the prayers we made, the sleepless nights, the hope, the expectation we had in Amrabat. For me, this is why he is a flop until he proves otherwise. And he might have the time, I hope, but I mean, January is around the corner. I'm not sure we will buy him. I'm not sure he's earned himself reason for us to pay for him. And that is why he will still be a flop for me, because we might not actually buy him, because that was supposed to be an option. I think it is part of the conditions that Fiorentina gave us to get him on loan, that there must be a buying him option. Now, I don't think he has warranted that. And the hype, the expectations, we wanted a backup for Casemiro. We prayed. All United supporters in unison were shouting, Amrabat is the guy. He's the true backup for Casemiro and all. But look, he cannot even command a start against Fulham, even when there is no Casemiro, and we are having Scott McTominay starting as a number 6 ahead of him. So for me, that is wrong. That is unacceptable. It's wrong, and that's why I think he will remain a flop. So for me, for now, Sofian Amrabat is a flop. My number 3, and again, this one might look unfair, but Wout Weghorst. So he joins us on loan from Burnley, and he played. I think he scored 1 goal for Manchester United, but he was involved in a lot of nothing. If I would say, there was really nothing that he did for me when he was at Manchester United. I didn't see his impact. The beauty is we got him on loan, but I did not see Weghorst's impact at all. I tried to be patient with him. I tried to see it. I did not see it. And for that reason, he was a flop. I won't dwell so much on him because he was there on loan and he's no longer a player. So but he was still brought in by Erik Ten Hag. So for me, he will rank at my number 3 because he came in at a time when we needed goals. We needed a striker, someone to come and score goals. And we were hoping that this giant of a striker, of a forward, was going to give us the goals. But Weghorst's football was very confusing, for lack of a better word. So he was, for me, my number 3 flop under Erik Ten Hag so far. But I won't mind so much because we didn't pay a nickel for him. Now, these are the flops now, the master flops now. Number 2, Mason Mount. I was here, we were here, and we were all wondering, what problem is Mason Mount solving for Manchester United? What problem was Mason Mount solving for Manchester United that he was our first signing in the summer? When we were desperate for signings, we took long without signing a single player. When we come back, the first player we sign is Mason Mount for £60 million, first of all, which everyone and anyone would see was a rip-off from Chelsea. There is no way we are supposed to pay that money. But most importantly, what problem was Mount solving for Manchester United? Of all problems we had going into the summer transfer window, what problem was Mount going to solve for us? And of course, people will still say the same thing, that Mount is here, he's exciting, he looks promising, we give him time. I mean, if you're signed for 60 million quid in the summer by Manchester United, under the circumstances we are in, we don't need time for you to perform. You've got to be performing instantly. Now, for me, I think this was a flop. It was never justified. Erik Ten Hag was only trying to be too technical, but it hasn't worked. And until he proves otherwise, I think a player who cannot even start in a derby, you're bought for 60 million, but you can't start in a derby when you're not injured. You can't start against Fulham when you're not injured. Then what are you giving us? Where is the hope that he will turn things around if given time? When even now he cannot command a starting place in the team. So I think Mount was a flop painfully, and it's not him to blame. For me, his flopping is entirely on the manager. I blame the manager. He was never the right player for us to sign at this time. We didn't need him. When Bruno is there, Eriksen is there, where exactly is Mount going to play? Even when they have no right winger, Mount cannot play on the right wing. We are seeing him at times being, put in the number 10, and Bruno played on the right. It doesn't work. Bruno has to come back in the number 10, so he has no place to play. So for me, this is where this is one I will look at, and Erik Ten Hag himself will look at and say, okay, here I wasted the Glazers' money. And of course, the number one spot, the flop of all flops, the multi-million pounds flop, none other than the man who flatters to deceive, does a lot of nothing, puts in a lot of effort, but does absolutely nothing. He played 25 games last season, scored, was involved in 4 goals for United. I think 2 goals and 2 assists. I mean, God, Anthony Dos Santos. What can I say? 85.6 million pounds is what we spent on him from Ajax. Promise, excitement, anticipation. Everyone was saying we've got this exciting guy who's going to come and just make that right wing, an inverted winger who is going to make that position so exciting. He has got all the time in the world. People have been patient with him. Erik Ten Hag has put him there every day, even when the obvious logical thing to do is not to play him. Ten Hag has been playing him, but boy, hasn't he flopped so bad, so bad. Anthony Dos Santos might be the worst flop post Sir Alex Ferguson for Manchester United, not just under Erik Ten Hag, but post Sir Alex Ferguson, he could be the worst flop. And it is maybe not entirely his problem. Maybe his style of play is not favored by the team, the whole team, because the whole Man United unit is bad, to be honest. But, I mean, at least we would have seen one moment of brilliance from him, one promising moment, and we say, okay, yes, he is bad and all, but at least we've seen shades of himself at Ajax. But boy, this guy has done absolutely nothing. Anthony has failed completely, and I ran out of words to describe how disappointed I am in him. But realistically, we have got to do something about him, and we cannot be spending money on players like this. So much money, paying them big salaries. So for me, I mean, it's terrible. I feel pain talking about Anthony Dos Santos because of the expectations. He's the kind of player I like. I mean, players who want to do things with the ball, try out things, look exciting. I like such players, but unfortunately for him, it actually looks bad him trying to do stuff. It looks bad on him, completely bad. He shouldn't. You wish he doesn't try to pull a trick. And remember that game, was it, which game were we playing when he was showboating with the ball and going around and the pundits almost ate him for dinner? I mean, goodness. Anthony is such a flop. Anyhow, let me know of my top 5 list. What's your top 5 list of flops under Erik Ten Hag? But of these flops, who do you think has got the chance to turn things around for themselves? Maybe Tyrell Malaysia, if he's fit, he has got a bit of promise. I've told you that before. And of course, Weghorst is no longer there. But the others, are not Anthony. Mount, some people can say he could, but he has no space in that team. For me, I don't see where he plays unless Bruno is not there, Christian Eriksen is not there. But even when they have not been there, he has failed. So these guys might be permanent flops by the way. Let me know what you think. I hope not, but as it looks, they're not helping themselves at all. Hotspot, subscribe. My name is Webb.